Hi friends, Stephanie here, and I'm back with more movie chatter. And what I have for you today are 10 sequels that I think were just a little bit better than the original film. Now, again, these lists are for fun, it's subjective, it's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that I'm right, so don't get all wound up if you don't agree with me. If you think there are things that are better sequels than the original, leave them in the comments. There's a few I'm not going to touch. I'm just staying away from them because I have to give it more thought, but there will be more installments of this if you enjoy it. What makes a good sequel? I think when you have a really strong original film, it's hard to make a really good sequel that even surpasses the first one. But in these cases, most of the original films were very, very good films, excellent films. And I just think that the sequel kind of moved that bar a little bit higher or a little bit more forward. It gave us more depth to characters. Maybe the cinematography was better. Maybe the story was better. The writing was better. More depth. Maybe it could stand on its own. We'll see. But I'm going to go through it and I'm going to keep my commentary brief because these are all very well-known films. And the first one is Silence of the Lambs. Now, you might be thinking, some people don't realize that Silence of the Lambs is a sequel to Manhunter, which was based on the book Red Dragon. And I know Red Dragon was remade later on down the road in the franchise, but this original Manhunter that stars Brian Cox as Hannibal Lecter, he's not in it very much. He's in prison by this time, and they're hunting a killer known as the Tooth Fairy. If you haven't seen the original Manhunter, please seek it out and see it. It's an excellent film. It's fantastic. You will not be disappointed. But then we get Silence of the Lambs, and we have Anthony Hopkins and Jodie Foster, and their on-screen chemistry from the first time they are together is undeniably fantastic. The writing is fantastic on this. The cast, the story, the depth of the characters, the interactions between Hannibal Lecter and Agent Starling are just, it's the stuff of legends. This film is one that is quoted all the time. I could watch this anytime, anywhere, never be bored with it. Buffalo Bill in the house representing. But I just love this movie. I love everything about it. And I think that it just took that franchise that was started with Manhunter and moved it forward and really got the ball rolling for what was to come after. And even though we didn't get the continuation of Jodie Foster like I would have liked, I think that it's a pretty strong franchise even moving forward. Not all the films hold up to this one in my opinion, but I think that they are all very watchable and very good movies. So Silence of the Lambs is my first pick. And the next one is The Bride of Frankenstein. Now, I love the original Frankenstein. It's one of the OG Universal monsters, but I love what Bride of Frankenstein did with that first movie, how it played off of the first movie, the original movie, and this one picks up right where the first one left off, and we find out that Dr. Frankenstein and the monster have both survived what we thought was the end of both of them. And we find out that the monster wants a partner. He wants a friend, and they're trying to figure out how to get him a friend, a companion, whatever. And in the meantime, the monster, we see the evolution of the monster as he wanders out into the world for reasons. If you haven't seen the film, you'll find out when you watch it. He ventures out into the world and he's discovering things, and we see the evolution and the growth of the monster, which was really interesting to see. And I love what they did with it. I love how they did it. I love how the monster's portrayed. I love how they took this great classic movie Frankenstein, the original one, and just moved it forward and gave it more depth and more layers and new characters. I just love it. And Boris Karloff is fantastic as the monster, as always. And Bride of Frankenstein is one of my favorite movies in the Universal monster world. So I love this movie. I think it's fantastic, and it's a fantastic sequel. Now the next one comes from, this is from the Criterion Collection. It's Richard Linklater's The Before trilogy. I really do love all three of these films, but I have to say that my favorite is the middle one, Before Sunset. And in Before Sunrise was the first one, where we have our two characters, Jesse and Celine, who meet. They're two strangers who meet and they spend the day together before they both have to leave. Now it's 9 years later, and they meet up again. Now, they had thought they would never see each other again, and we have them meet up. I guess Jesse is on a book tour. He's a writer, and Celine finds out that he's on a book tour, and they arrange to meet. But this is a great story because it's kind of like we're meeting up with two old friends that we haven't seen in a long time, and we want to see where they are, and there's just still this connection between them. And again, it takes the original story of two random strangers just meeting, and it moves it forward because they kind of know each other even though they don't, and they haven't stayed in contact, but there's more depth to the story, there's more feelings, there's more emotion, and you really get caught up, and you're really rooting for them to make something of what is obvious that they have. And I think this is just a beautiful story. The cinematography is gorgeous, the setting, the conversations, the dialogue, everything that goes into this, all the writing is so good. The character development is fantastic, and I just love this. I love the whole trilogy, but out of all of them, Before Sunset, without a doubt, is my favorite. Without a doubt, this is my favorite of the whole franchise. So if you haven't seen the Before trilogy, put it on your list to pick up for the next sale, because it is a fantastic, beautiful trilogy about relationships and the evolution of relationships, and you will not be disappointed in any one of these three films. They are all fantastic. But like I said, Before Sunset is without a doubt my favorite of the... Okay, hopefully I won't get too much pushback on this one, but I think it's a good one. It comes from the trilogy of Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, and my pick, of course, is The Dark Knight. And this one is a really interesting film because it's more rooted in realism than what we would expect from a superhero movie. And Batman Begins, I think, was a great movie. I really enjoyed it. I know not everybody loved that one, but I thought it was really good. I love Christian Bale as Batman. But then we have The Dark Knight come along with one of the most iconic villains of all time, Heath Ledger as the Joker. He is the best modern version of the Joker, in my opinion. I think he did it the best. And then we have, of course, I love Cesar Romero as the original one. But this one takes a superhero movie and kind of flips it on its head to make it a modern crime thriller movie, and it feels like more of a realistic movie. It feels like something that could really happen, and it asks questions of the audience, and it asks about hypocrisy and morality and questions of how we do things, and it touched on the 9/11, the socio-political climate of the time after 9/11, and it seems like the Joker is just an agent of chaos for no real reason than to expose the hypocrisy in society. And it really made us think as an audience. It made us think, and it took like something that we don't normally do in these superhero movies. We kind of just sit back and put our feet up, eat popcorn, and enjoy it. But this is a movie that's a real thinker. And if you think about the tone of the Joker and his attitudes and what he's kind of holding up in the face of Batman and the other people in the movie, it really does make you question what he's all about. And there's very strong character arcs, and the special effects are great. Everything about this is great, and Christopher Nolan did a fantastic job with this one. The character development is awesome. Everything about this is a winner, and I just love The Dark Knight, and I really think it's hard to top this one, in my opinion, because I'm not the biggest superhero fan, even though I watch them. It's not always my genre of choice, but I would watch The Dark Knight anytime, anywhere, because I just think it's so different, it's so unique, and this one is one that I feel could be a standalone movie. It doesn't need Batman Begins, it doesn't need The Dark Knight Rises to make it a strong movie on its own, and I think that speaks volumes for why it's such an amazing sequel that even surpasses the first one. So Dark Knight is my next pick. Now this next one is technically a prequel, but I always said I think these were put out in the wrong order, but that's just my opinion. It doesn't mean I'm right. It's Mia Goth in Pearl. And this is part of what I call the X trilogy. I guess that's what we're calling it. Now, I saw X, of course, and I liked X when I saw it, but I had a lot of questions. I didn't understand a lot of what was going on, but then they released Pearl. And like I said, this is supposed to be a prequel, and I know I'm kind of coloring outside the lines by putting this one in here, but hear me out on this. This, Pearl, made X a better movie, because when we see the backstory of this character, we understand a lot of those things that we really maybe question in X. And when I saw Pearl, and Mia Goth's performance is amazing in this. She established herself as a very, very strong and capable actor in this movie. She's amazing. And I love everything about this. I think overall, everybody most people are of the opinion that this is their favorite in the trilogy. But after watching this, I immediately went back and watched X, and it just made X, it elevated X to a much better movie. It answered all those questions that I really didn't understand when I first watched it. So now I tell everyone, watch Pearl, then watch X, then watch Maxine, because I think that's the order it should have been released in. That's not what they did. I'm not the filmmaker. I'm not in charge of those things. So it doesn't really matter what I think. But that's how I watch them, and that's how I recommend people watch them, because it makes the whole experience better. But Pearl is a fantastic, fantastic movie. Okay, and my next one is from the Dollars trilogy, or the Man with No Name trilogy, and it's For a Few Dollars More, starring Clint Eastwood and directed by Sergio Leone. And right off the bat, you can see that this is a much more mature, developed movie than Fistful of Dollars, which to me felt like a very one-dimensional, straight-up revenge film. I liked it. I loved the movie, but this one just felt like it just moved ahead. And we have Clint Eastwood playing a bounty hunter, and he is joined by Lee Van Cleef, who's also playing a bounty hunter, and they are in search of El Indio, played by Klaus Kinski, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of people upset, but he is in the movie, and he is a formidable opponent for these two bounty hunters that are after him. And we have a beautiful score by Ennio, which is going to elevate any movie, because he just has such a talent for delivering a score that just hits right, and it takes any moment in a film that needs it and just elevates it to the next level. So there's so much about this film that feels much more deep and mature and layered than the original Fistful of Dollars. And that's a really good thing, because we see different aspects of these characters, and it's not just a straight up shoot 'em up Western. We have the addition of these comedic moments that we didn't have in the first one, because in this one, Clint Eastwood is actually acting with someone. He's not just a man on his own. And so to break up the tension, which is ongoing throughout the film, you have these really cool comedic moments, which are always great in any of Clint Eastwood's movies. But this is such a fantastic movie from beginning to end, and it has so many elements and so much more development than the Fistful of Dollars. And you can see the changes in Sergio Leone's style and his pacing. The pacing is better, the cinematography is better, the shots are set up better. Everything about this movie just feels like it's moving forward, it's a step above, it's evolving, and he's evolving as a filmmaker, and these characters are evolving, even though they're different characters. But there's an evolution to it that definitely is a little bit, I think, above the Fistful of Dollars. But I love this one, and I think it's so great. I love how even the bounty hunters, they have a conscience, and they're wondering, they're asking themselves about the morality of what they're doing and why they're doing it and their motivations. And I just love that about it. Like, I love the depth of everything in this movie. And like I said, everything from the score to the pacing, the cinematography, everything about this is just amazing. So if you haven't seen this one, I know a lot of people haven't, but if you're into 4K, the 4K looks amazing, but you don't have to get the 4K. Watch it on DVD, Blu-ray, whatever. Just watch it. It's a really... Okay, and the next one, we're jumping back to horror. We're all over the place today. The next one is Evil Dead 2, a Sam Raimi film. And the thing about this one is, coming off of the Evil Dead, which was a straight-up horror film, we went into Evil Dead 2, and because of rights issues, they were not allowed to use any of the footage from the original Evil Dead. So this really had to make it as a standalone film, which it did. And I think one of the ways that they did that was the introduction of like that slapstick comedy, and the evolution of the Ash character, without a doubt, is what made this movie. They took the Ash character, who was kind of afraid and just like a normal everyday guy in the first one, and they made him into this like crazy superhero, anti-hero, chainsaw wielding, wisecracking guy who really carried this movie. And that was something that hadn't been done before, because they took this comedy and they added it into a horror movie. They kept the horror elements, the gore, all the things that we loved about the first one, and then they had this great balance of comedic, like one-liners and slapstick type of thing, and it just worked. There was such a great balance, and it was so meticulously done, but they made it look effortless, and it's just so good. And then you have Sam Raimi's brilliant, like, special effects, practical effects, also his camera style, the point of view shots. Everything that he did just worked, and it definitely had a little bit of a higher budget, so that helped, and it just really made for a much better experience and made this film gain the cult following that it has to today. And it's just one of those films that just holds up. People love the character of Ash, and this was really where I think the true Ash was born, and all the special effects and everything that Sam Raimi does meticulously in every film. You see it here in The Evil Dead 2, which just makes it such a step above the original Evil Dead, while keeping all the elements that we loved about the horror parts of the original Evil Dead, just mashing it all together and making a great movie. And Evil Dead 2 will always be a cult classic in my opinion because of that. So really, really good stuff there. Okay, just two more and we're done. And this one is one of my favorite films of all time, and it's a favorite popcorn film. Let's just say that. I love this movie. I love the franchise. It's the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, and I saw the first three, the trilogy as it was for quite a long time. I saw all three in theaters because they just happened to be released on my birthday week, which was pretty cool. But the second one, Dead Man's Chest, is my favorite. The first one, The Curse of the Black Pearl, to me felt like just a fun swashbuckling film. It was about Will and Elizabeth and their relationship and the evolution of their relationship. And then you have Captain Jack Sparrow, who was just really a lot of comedic relief and not a lot of depth to any of the characters. But with this one, not only did they take everything that we loved about the first one, but they actually moved it forward and they pushed the boundaries. They made it darker. They made the characters more developed. There was definitely changes to everyone, from Jack to Will to Elizabeth. They all changed. And then we added in Davy Jones, who's an excellent villain. And we have, there's consequences for everything. And Jack Sparrow has changed. He's got fear. He's afraid of Davy Jones. He's got a debt to pay. He's a man on the edge. And I love that they added things like the Flying Dutchman and the Kraken and all the special effects that they added. I thought the special effects were fantastic in this. And we see Will, he's definitely becoming more serious, and he's a more formidable opponent when he's up against someone. Elizabeth is getting a lot more self-assured and a lot more confident. So there's a lot of layering to this film that wasn't in the first one, and there's so much darkness. I love the darker tone of this film. I think it just fits and it works, and you still have those comedic moments, but it's not as silly. It's more like to break up the tension of the film. But I just love the direction that this goes in. I love everything that they added to it. And I love, like I said, that they took it to more of a layered, darker place. And I love the introduction of the villains and the ghost ship and all that. But Dead Man's Chest is definitely one of my favorites, if not my favorite, of the whole franchise. I just love this one, and I could watch it over and over and over again. And this next one, the last one, might surprise you a little bit. It's not a franchise that I talk about much, but it's part of the Planet of the Apes. And this one is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which is the second one after Rise. And I enjoyed Rise, but to me, Rise was a lot about like the backstory of Caesar and how he came to be and how he ended up where he ended up. And in Rise, we have the human race is almost completely wiped out by this virus, but the ape community is thriving in the woods. They're doing very well. Caesar is in charge, and he and Koba are working together, but there's some tensions that are going on there, and we see that building, and that adds to that tension that we know is coming. And there's different things that happen between the apes and the humans that lead to different conflicts, and we see that really the ape community is really evolving almost to the point where they're outsmarting the humans at every turn. And I just love that. And one of the things that I really appreciate about this movie is how well the CGI was done. It doesn't feel like this cheesy CGI. It just really feels like you're really looking at an ape that's sitting there having a conversation. And I just love that. I love the way the whole ape community is working together. I love that we're meeting new characters. I love that we're having new tensions. I love that they actually have to think and plan, and they have to try to outsmart the humans to save their own community. And then within their own community, they're having their own problems. But I just really love that back and forth between the humans and the apes, and how much the humans underestimate the apes at every turn. But I think this is really a setup for the the rest of the franchise that we see, the films that come after this. But this is one of my favorites. I go back and forth between this one and War. I really do like War as well, but for right now, we're doing the sequels, and I really do like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I think it's really a step ahead of where the original one. I think it took the information from the original and just deepened it and made it. There's more high stakes in this one than there was in the first one. So that's my last pick for sequels that I think outdid the original film. Now, you let me know down in the comments, what are your favorite sequels of all time, and we'll see if we can get a list going. And if you guys like this, we'll keep it going. So I want to thank everyone for watching. You know I appreciate each and every one of you who click on these videos. If you want to sub, like, hype, do all the things. If not, don't worry about it. Just watching is fine. I'm going to be back real soon. I have a bunch of videos planned for you. And I know I'm doing videos that are a little different than what I normally do. And it's kind of because, you know, January is a little bit of a slow month. February, things start to pick up a little bit. So I figured I'd try out some new content. And if there are segments that you guys seem to enjoy, we'll continue them going. I'm always looking for new things to add to the channel. And I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to hang out with Pickle because she's been waiting for me while I'm doing this. We're going to have some pizza. And I'm going to call it a night. So for now, that's a wrap.